So Captain America 4, Brave New World, whatever you want to call it, came out today, and it is one of the most controversial Marvel films in recent memory. It seems like the film has been dealing with a lot. It filmed so long ago at this point. Like it feels like we've been hearing about this film for years and years and years, and now it's finally. Early last year, there was a leak from McDonald's where the leaked toys were shown, and like some of the characters that leaked aren't even in the final film. That's how much this, or how long this film has been cooking. Where there's been reshoots. I mean, I know people are saying the reshoot rumors were debunked, but there were 100% some extensive reshoots. You can't dispute that because when characters are in the McDonald's toys and then don't end up in the final film, that shows how much the edit has changed and how much the actual story of the film has changed, because you don't make toys for McDonald's for films unless those characters are pretty integral. A character I'm talking about is Rosa Salazar's character. She was playing Diamondback, I think, and she was in loads of set pictures and stuff like that, and then she doesn't end up in the final film. All part of the Serpent Society stuff, which is part of Giancarlo Esposito's Sidewinders plot, or whatever his character's called. I don't know. Anyway, look, the film has been controversial. There's been so much going on with it. Some people are just racist assholes and don't want to support Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson as Captain America, which is complete bullshit because Sam Wilson is a fantastic Captain America and he's the best part of this film, to be honest, by far. I think no other parts of the film are even remotely close to how good he is as the character of Sam Wilson in this film. Besides that, there's also some controversial stuff surrounding the budget. Like we mentioned, the reshoots. Some of that stuff has been debunked, but it's still sort of heavily there. People disagree with the fact that the film is very heavily a Hulk related sequel or an Incredible Hulk related sequel, kind of a sequel to Eternals as well. And people are like, why is the first Captain America solo film with Sam Wilson, the first Captain America solo film since Civil War in 2016, almost 10 years ago, why is it a sequel to Incredible Hulk? Why is it a sequel to Eternals? I kind of agree there too. I think that's a bit crazy. Then there's also some stuff to do with another character that is related to a government that it exists in real life. The character from the comics is not a character you think should be adapted, especially today with today's world situations and with today's world climate. But they went ahead and put her in the film anyway, and there's controversy surrounding that. That thing I understand a little bit more why people are annoyed about that, because I also think that that was a bizarrely insane decision. I'm not going to mention it here for reasons, but if you want to figure out, just look up protests outside Captain America Brave New World's premiere at Hollywood, because that'll clear up pretty quickly what I'm referring to. Anyway, that was a pretty long opening to just say the film is controversial. And the film had its premiere earlier on this week, and the reviews, they weren't great, but they weren't terrible either. Very mixed. Some people saying it was a really fun time, don't expect too much from it, but it's a fine film. Others saying it was really disappointing and they expected a lot more. Not a lot of people saying it's just outright trash or just outright a garbage film, but a lot of people kind of just middle of the road being like, it's whatever. Don't go into it too high expectations and you'll have an okay time. But Twitter kind of is treating the film like it's, I don't know, the next... what's been a really bad Marvel film lately? An MCU film that everybody hated. I don't know. There hasn't really been... People are acting like it's kind of the next Morbius or Madam Web, I guess, if you want to talk about just Marvel in general. And it's absolutely not. I don't think the film was high art or anything. I don't think it was amazing. Just to say straight off, I do think this film had some of the worst editing that's been in a Marvel film in recent memory. I mean, MCU film, I should say. I felt like the editing, especially on the fight scenes, just in general, when we'd cut from a scene to a different scene, the editing would be so weird that it would make it kind of hard to follow that sometimes. And then it would take you a few seconds into the next scene for you to catch your bearings and be like, oh, okay, so this is what we're doing now. And that's never a good thing. A film's edit should never feel like that. And it's a little disappointing because I think the trailers for Brave New World were actually some of the most brilliantly edited Marvel trailers we've ever seen. I thought that I was a little worried about this film from the get-go, just based off of all the things we were hearing. Thought it was going to be messy. And then those first trailers came out and they were so well edited and they really played up the political thriller, echoing home to like Captain America the Winter Soldier, which is my favorite Marvel film of all time. And it made the film feel exciting and like something I really wanted to see and see what they were going to do with it and stuff like that. But unfortunately, I mean, I guess the film is sort of edited like it was the trailers, which that works for the trailers. It makes you excited. It doesn't work when you're actually in the film. It's kind of like the whole Suicide Squad 2016 thing, where people loved the Suicide Squad trailers, so they ended up bringing the people who worked on those trailers and worked on music videos in to edit the actual final film, and it made the final film be sort of messy. That's sort of what Captain America Brave New World felt like to me, where the editing felt more like the trailers, which works for trailers, doesn't work for the film. Now, not to say that the film is as bad as Suicide Squad, it's absolutely not. I actually wouldn't say this film's bad at all. I think there are bad elements to it, but I think overall it's got enough great stuff going in it that it actually makes for a satisfying watch for the most part. Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson, like I said earlier, is the best part of this film. The actual character focus moments on him and on Joaquin Torres, who is the new Falcon, who was introduced in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which, great show, go watch it. But introduced there, they sort of continue and build on the character moments between the two of them, as well as Isaiah Bradley, who is the Captain America from the 1950s, who was also introduced in The Falcon and Winter Soldier. But there's a lot of character moments mainly between Sam and Joaquin. There's one scene towards the end of the film that is just fantastic between the two of them and is just my favorite scene in the entire film. I loved it. I love the dialogue. I love the emotion. I love the acting from Anthony Mackie. I thought he really brought something to it. And Falcon and Winter Soldier as a show was all about Sam not feeling like he was living up to the legacy of Steve Rogers and feeling like he wasn't somebody who could take on the mantle of Captain America and could take on that shield, and how he just wasn't that guy. And it was sort of, bringing Bucky in and stuff like that, and the whole 6-episode show was sort of Sam going through the motions of realizing that he's not Steve Rogers, but that's not a bad thing. He is his own Captain America, and he needs to do things his way, and that he's not somebody who, people can believe in necessarily, but because Sam doesn't have the super soldier serum, you can look at Sam and be like, wow, he's a normal human. He's just like me. Maybe I can be like him someday. And the film really, really, really builds into that and builds upon that, which I thought was an excellent choice because it just makes Sam Wilson's character extremely relatable. Well, yeah, Steve Rogers is a great character. He's not exactly relatable since he has a super soldier serum. I mean, I'm a really skinny, scrawny guy who never in a million years will be able to fight in war. So the early parts of Captain America the First Avenger, where Steve is like deferred from military service constantly because he's just not healthy or not fit, that's pretty relatable to me. But, the actual super soldier serum, peak human performance above and beyond everything else definitely isn't relatable. Sam Wilson is a little bit more believable in that area, and the film really builds upon that in a great way. And let's talk about the Hulk elements. Not going to get too spoilery because there's a lot to spoil here, but if you've seen the trailer, you know that Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who's now played by Harrison Ford, is Red Hulk, and that's a huge, huge, huge tie-in to The Incredible Hulk. And the film is as much of a sequel to The Incredible Hulk as you could expect. But it feels weird because there is no Bruce Banner, there is no Hulk, and we're in a Captain America film. So it's kind of hard to get the full connection and get the full sequel vibes, but it does feel like a sequel. It is really, really, really weird because, I don't know, it seems like such an odd time to do a sequel to The Incredible Hulk. It feels like the writers, directors, whatever, really wanted to just make a straight up Hulk film that just built on all the elements from The Incredible Hulk from 2008. And now here we are left with a film where the Hulk elements added into this, as well as the Serpent Society stuff with Giancarlo Esposito's character, which also relates to the Hulk stuff, is easily the most undercooked, messy part of the film. It's during these parts where you can really, really, really feel the sense of reshoots, really, really, really feel the sense of the writers not fully knowing what kind of movie they're making, not really knowing what they're trying to do. Because it's like when the Sam Wilson, Joaquin Torres stuff is the best part of your film, and it's also not even the majority of the film. I would argue Ross is more integral to the film sometimes than Sam Wilson is, which is terrible for a film called Captain America Brave New World. And it makes me disappointed because I'm thinking about how amazing this film could have been if it was all about Sam, all about Joaquin, all about these Captain America central characters, and how good it would feel to sort of build off of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Because Falcon and Winter Soldier built off of the Winter Soldier and Civil War really well, and I feel like Brave New World would have done really well to build off of Falcon and Winter Soldier and sort of show that this Captain America franchise really can exist on its own outside of the other Marvel stuff if it wanted to. But bringing in all the Hulk elements doesn't necessarily let this film be what it wants to be and be what it needs to be a great film. It just makes for you being like, I would have preferred this film if Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross wasn't in it. I would have preferred it if the Red Hulk stuff wasn't in it. Also, the visuals when it comes to that stuff is not great. If you've seen the trailers, you've seen that whole scene that's in the cherry blossom foresty place or whatever that's in Washington D.C. and that is the most visually muddled or visually ugly thing I think I've seen in a Marvel film in recent memory, and an MCU film anyway, because the film is very VFX heavy, but that's not a surprise because most MCU films are VFX heavy. But there are certain shots in that scene that just look atrocious, and I'm really, really, really hoping they try and fix this for like digital releases or whatever. But I was just there were some moments where they kept cutting to this shot of Sam, and it wasn't like it was a quick, they show it once and it's gone. They cut back to this shot like 4 or 5 times, where Sam is sort of standing there talking to Red Hulk, and it looks terrible. And I was like, mm, if this was a one and done shot, maybe it's okay or possible for it to look like that. But when you're going to keep cutting back to it, this should look a lot better than it does. And I don't know, that sort of stuff didn't really sit with me well either. The music, I will say, for a lot of it, I wasn't super into the score. If you don't know, Alan Silvestri, who's really famous for like Back to the Future and stuff like that, did Captain America the First Avenger, as well as the Avengers, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. And then Henry Jackman was brought on for Winter Soldier, Civil War, and the Falcon and Winter Soldier. So because they only use two composers throughout all this sort of stuff, it creates for a very thorough line in the soundtrack that it's really, really, really obvious when it's the Captain America theme, when it's the Bucky theme, when it's all of this other stuff. And Falcon Winter Soldier, despite being Henry Jackman, still reuses a lot of the Alan Silvestri Captain America themes to create this real feeling of, a universe existing on of itself. Now, Laura Cartman was brought in to do the score for Brave New World, and Laura is not new to Marvel. She did Miss Marvel, she did The Marvels, she did What If, has messed around with a lot of Marvel projects so far. And she's not against using old scores because she reuses the Miss Marvel theme in The Marvels, a bit of the Captain Marvel theme from Captain Marvel 1 in The Marvels, stuff like that. What If is full of reusing themes from across the MCU whenever characters show up. But for Brave New World, pretty much never. Sometimes you can get a slight hint of the Captain America theme, but in general, basically no sign of any of the music used throughout any of the other Captain America stuff. And that's really, really, really disappointing to me since the rest of the Captain America stuff has been so good at following up on scores and following up on music. There is one music that plays really, really, one track I should say that plays in the end credits that is fantastic. I think it's the best track in the film. Nothing related to the other Marvel films. It's just a really good track on its own. But in general, I was really hoping for this score to be more in line with the other Captain America projects and to homage back to them and to revisit them because they are some of the best scores in the entire MCU. And this was something the MCU did in its early days. It would barely touch on scores like the Iron Man score from Iron Man 1 with Ramin Djawadi did it. Never revisited again. The Incredible Hulk score in The Incredible Hulk, never revisited again. The Iron Man 2 score is completely different to the Iron Man 1 score, and it's also different to the Iron Man 3 score. So early MCU is super bad at that. But in recent years, they've gotten really good at keeping that sort of composer there throughout a franchise or throughout a trilogy, and then that becomes the central theme for that character, which is then used in later projects. That's not what Brave New World does, unfortunately, which I know most people don't really care too much about the music. It's something that I really do like, is the scores for soundtracks and for films and stuff like that. It's a big part of the films for me, and it didn't super hit here outside of that one track I mentioned. But yeah, Brave New World, it was a messy film, 100%. Could have been a lot better. The Incredible Hulk elements, the villain elements are terrible, undercooked, but the actual Captain America focus parts are really, 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 really good. And some of the best stuff to come out of Marvel out of the last like 2 or 3 years, I would say. So it's sort of disappointing that the film is really, really, really out of balance with that, where one part is super low, one part is super high sort of thing. And it could have been a lot stronger if they'd concentrated more on making this a Captain America film and not a sequel to The Incredible Hulk and Eternals and stuff like that. But anyway, have you seen Brave New World? If you have, what did you think about it? Do you think it's as bad as people are saying? Do you think it's better? Let me know all that sort of stuff. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And if you're not, make sure to like and share and all that sort of stuff. Thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day.